Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY TV interview. Today I'm joined again by Adam Krebet. He is the Business Solutions Lead at Workday. Welcome back to ITY TV.
Thanks, Alex. Good to speak with you again.
Well, thank you for taking the time. Now, Adam, last time we spoke was in February, and since then you have a new position at Workday. So can you please briefly recap Workday for us now that we're well into the second half of 2022 and outline your new position?
Yeah, so Workday is a leading provider of pure cloud, HCM, finance, and spend management solutions that allow customers to plan, execute, and analyze in one place. And my role now is focused a little bit more squarely on building solution landscape maps for customers and working with them directly. And so it's a little bit more of an external facing role to supplement the partial external facing aspect that I had previously. So I'm really pleased to be able to bring that focus.
Okay, so since 2020, Workday and IDC have been working together to build a picture of the state of digital agility amongst Asia-Pacific organizations, assessing how they score in 4 dimensions. So this is called the Workday Digital Agility Index, and your most recent version was released in mid-August, which is, as we were recording, was last week. So let's start with what digital agility means in 2022.
Yeah, certainly. So you're absolutely right. We commissioned this study along with IDC, and this is the second version of the study. So we're able to see some interesting trends arising. And it does measure agility across 4 dimensions, which are, first of all, organization and culture, which means the degree to which departmental capabilities are put in context with an overall organizational move towards agility. Secondly, people and capabilities. Obviously, organizations agility depends a lot on the people within that organization. So how ready is the workforce for that, which includes both the technology associated with enabling those people, as well as the practices, policies, and the culture aspects. The third piece is process and governance, where it's about aligning processes to support effective planning and execution across the organization. And then the technology side of things, which, as you'd expect, is about having the right platforms, the right flows of information, etc., to be able to enable the decision-making that the organisation needs.
So where does Australia sit in the region when it comes to digital agility, and how do we compare to others in the region?
Yeah, so the good news for Australia is that they emerged as the leader in agility in this round of the study, moving up from 3rd place. And it's joined with New Zealand and Singapore in the top 3 places. So whilst Australia has really improved and made great strides generally in all 4 of those dimensions, what is also clear from the study is that there is a fair gap between those organisations in the leader position and those in the lagging positions. Overall, we saw more than 78% of Australian organisations and 55% of New Zealand organisations being considered agility leaders, meaning that they're in the top 2 gradings of those rankings on each of the areas. So the top 2 are integrated or agile, and then we define followers as the organisations that are slow or tactical in those 4 dimensions. What we are seeing, though, is a real unevenness between those who are really executing effectively and those who are lagging behind, even within Australia. So we saw generally that, in fact, over half of organisations across APAC are in a lagging mode. In fact, that was 62%. And there's a lot that CIOs have to do with influencing that agility ranking, as you can imagine, because not only are they there to uplift their own systems, but to ensure that CHROs, CFOs, have the systems and information that they need and the ways to engage with their data and for their employees to be more engaged with the organisation.
Now, we've all heard about digital acceleration caused by the pandemic and the rush to cloud services. So what did the Agility Index find in this regard? Has acceleration's momentum slowed? Has it stayed the same? Or has it increased? And how has this affected Workday and your customers?
We certainly have seen a lot of acceleration as a result of the pandemic. There are a lot of organizations, obviously, that needed to rush to move systems into the cloud and enable remote working. What it does appear is that those organizations that invested well and those regions that invested well in agility prior to that pandemic were well established to be able to react quickly. Now, I suppose we'll see maybe in the next round what the pace of that change looks like as we've moved a little bit out of the pandemic. But one thing that is noted in the study is that just rushing to move to the cloud is only part of the story, because organizations need to look at those four dimensions to work hand in hand. Because it is, in fact, possible to make a cloud acquisition or an acquisition of a cloud platform that's not well integrated into the people strategy, that doesn't necessarily allow information to flow well across the organization. And so a cloud system can still be a tactical system. So you have to make your purchasing decisions very wisely.
Now, there's also the finding that more than half of APAC organizations still lag in digital agility. So why is this? And what should they be doing to stay ahead of the competition, to be better employees, to provide smarter products and services, etc.?
What the study did show was that leading organizations are consistently higher in all four of those dimensions than lagging organizations. And so the implication of that could be that lagging organizations need to make a balanced approach when they're increasing their digital agility, looking at people and process, looking at culture, and also looking at systems altogether. Because, of course, it's possible entirely to make a technology decision that doesn't really aid the organization. And yet, if the technology doesn't keep up, the organization's ability to change can be impeded.
Now, I did a great video interview with Auricon, one of your customers, and I was speaking to their CIO, CFO, and CHRO, who are all working very closely together and really benefiting from the Workday platform. So what are some other examples of Workday customers that are truly leading in the digital agility stakes, and some other examples of how they're doing this?
Auricon really is a good example because they took a very purposeful approach when they were looking to reinvent their finance projects experience alongside with their customer-facing experience, so that none was leading or lagging the other. One example that I want to talk about, if I may, is when where a customer addressed a real challenge around doing really important processes in a remote environment, and that's Aon Insurance. They've got around about 50,000 employees spread across 120 countries, and this was the first time that they'd, as well as a whole series of other organizations, had attempted to do a virtual close of their books. And as you can imagine, a close is a period of time where you need to be very agile and very collaborative. So having the right information at your fingertips, being able to run those processes and do it with confidence in the information is really important. So not only did they actually perform that virtual close across a very complex landscape, but they actually have reduced their close period time by 25% with Workday. And they've offered a quote in the public domain which indicates that they couldn't have achieved that across multiple systems, but also that relied on a system that was as reliable and flexible as Workday is. Another example that's more on the human capital side, we spoke about organizations having to redistribute their workforce really quickly throughout the pandemic last time. And another one is Mecca. And so as a retail provider of beauty goods, a lot happened very quickly when lockdowns took place. And so what they did was they identified staff who'd be key in supporting their online ordering side of the supply chain, which of course went ballistic pretty much overnight, and redistributing those people into their distribution center to support that part of the process. Now, these are examples that come out of the pandemic, but we never know what's going to happen next. And the point of the study is, or one of the points of the study is, that building agility to do that kind of thing as a part of the DNA of the organization is really important, because we don't know what's coming next.
And the study that you're referring to, are those examples from the Digital Agility Index, or is this a different study?
That's from the Digital Agility Index, yes.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I mean, I'll have a link to that obviously in the article that accompanies this video, and I'll also have a link to our previous video interview and the one that I mentioned with Oricon, because people should be able to watch those and for additional context, because they were really good.
Yes.
So, what other advances in AI, ML, and predictive analytics and more are being used by Workday and its customers to become more agile and achieve tangibly better results over this time last year or even during pre-pandemic times?
Yeah, there are certainly so many emerging cases where machine learning can help organizations. They have to be put in place with caution, of course. But I look at it from two dimensions. So the first is using machine learning to help deal with high volumes that people are frankly, they get tired of it. And the consistency of decision making that people can make is maybe less than could be automated. It certainly can be supplemented with machine learning based systems. So one example that comes from our applications is, again, going back to that idea of processing financial transactions. So we can use machine-based reasoning to be able to highlight anomalous financial transactions throughout the fiscal period so that people don't have to spend their time focusing on the vast body of transactions that are okay. This means that they can use their specialist knowledge to be able to deal with those outlying circumstances and not get weighed down by all of the rest. And then when you come to your fiscal close, you can have much more trust in the data that's there. And a lot more of the processing has been done smoothed out between periods. So that's one way that the financial period close can be made more reliable and faster. The second category of machine learning is where you're helping people to make better decisions. So not just those mechanistic ones, but provide insights and recommendations that people might miss. So one example of that really stems, and it's not the only one by any means, but it stems from the skills cloud, which I think we touched on briefly last time. What the skills mining capability in Workday does is that it trolls through a lot of information about the engagement that an employee has with their employer, aided by the fact that that information is in one place with Workday, and it derives recommendations about what skills that person has accrued along the way. And really importantly, those skills are set in the context of a skills ontology. So they're regular and can be used in a consistent way for things like finding that person gigs, which is the sorts of thing that excites a lot of workers, especially younger ones, and engages them more strongly, and even to identify potential future moves that the organisation might put that way for the employee, or to recommend future roles for that employee that they can then apply to internally.
The report is rich in all kinds of other stats and data. What else would you like to highlight from the report that the people watching really should know?
One thing I would like to focus on is the importance of adopting as-a-service architectures and that they're built for interoperability, because the survey shows that 37% of Asia-Pacific organizations are still on monolithic architectures. And this brings challenges around upgrading those on-premise type systems, but very much all about that causes a drag and delays potentially upgrading those systems and keeping them common. It also causes tactical decisions often to be made, which detracts from that overall picture of having an agile set of applications working hand in hand. In fact, IDC indicates within the study that by 2025, 75% of all CIOs will be forced to enact some kind of program to reduce technical debt proactively. And that's really one of the drivers there. A personal perspective there is that just buying as a service doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're breaking that difficult management that comes with monolithic on-premise systems. So you have to look under the covers and look for the total experience, the process of updating, and how you will consume innovations from your vendors. One other thing is that we focused in this discussion mostly about CIO direct activities. But one of the things that the study picked up was an importance, particularly for the CFO, in having predictive analytics and predictive scenario planning that they're able to perform. Because, of course, you need to be able to plan for the finance of the organization. But it also makes the point that planning for the human resources side of things needs to be well integrated. And this brings to the fore the idea that even to do workforce planning, you need rich information. So CIOs need to be able to provide a strong information backbone and source operational information for both their finance and HR operations to be able to work out how to move forward. One other thing is that the analysis suggests that we need to consider digital agility as not just a project, but it's a ongoing transformation activity that you need to be investing in all the time, because you don't solve everything in one go. And of course, situations change and the technology moves forward. So you need to be able to continually modernize and reach into the further corners of your application landscape to look for opportunities to make them agile.
Yeah, digital transformation is never one and done. It's continuous transformation.
Absolutely. Yes, so one of the other things I was going to point out before when you mentioned that the study would be available online is that there is an online assessment that companies can take on the Workday website, and we'll provide you with the link to that, and they can ask if they want to for additional follow-up from IDC.
Sure, good news. So, since you've been in this new position and I guess seeing Workday from a slightly different perspective, and a few months have passed since we last spoke, I mean, how do you now see Workday evolving over the next couple of years based on your new learnings and greater exposure, I guess, to more customer scenarios?
Well, there's only so much I can say because we're currently in a quiet period coming to an earnings announcement. What I can do is reiterate a few things that we've already made public, which is that we're definitely in the process of going through significant growth. We do have a goal to reach $10 billion in revenue by within the next 4 years or so, and that we've got a number of initiatives that help to bring that to light. So we spoke last time about some product acquisitions that Workday had made. So I would expect that we'll see deepening of the go-to-market with those and better integration with the rest of the environment. And then I think we touched on it last time, but we're in the process of expanding our use of public cloud facilities so that customers have more of a choice about where their data is hosted to go along with all of the other aspects of the Workday platform. And this will give organizations who have got data sovereignty requirements, extended operating hours requirements, a greater number of choices about where to host their data and what their maintenance windows are like.
Sure. Now, one of my signature questions is always to ask what was a memory of your first computer, but we spoke about that last time. And also great advice received in life. And again, we spoke about that last time. So I'll just modify that to say, since we last spoke, is there anything that you've learned about life and business that is worth sharing?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Steve Jobs and his catch cry of do what you love. Because a lot of organizations throughout the pandemic, did it hard, but a lot of other organizations doubled down on the employee experience and gave people an opportunity to have more say in shaping their future. And I've been lucky enough to feel this and to see an increased focus on that employee engagement in a lot of organizations. And I feel that's really an excellent way, and it's a fantastic trend for organisations because it can give mutual benefit. And I'm very pleased to have been on the receiving end of that kind of flexibility from the organisation.
So, what is your final message to IT Wire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
Yeah, I'd say get a hold of a copy of the study. There's a lot more in there. It's interesting, and certainly take the opportunity to reflect on where you are in those continuums and think about whether your investments in your landscape are truly aligned with the rest of the organization. And when you do make acquisitions, dig deep, get under the covers and find out what it really takes to own something, because only then will you find the true value in a cloud investment.
Well, Adam Krebet, Business Solutions Lead at Workday, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us again on ITY TV and sharing what's new and the report. And again, I hope we can talk again in the future.
Thanks, Alex. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.